Well, I want to say happy Monday, but after Saturday's result, I'm not so sure if it's a happy Monday. However, that said, I'm very privileged and very honoured on today's live stream to have somebody who literally lives about 20 minutes from me in the UK. It's such a small world, it's unbelievable. But yeah, so viewers, listeners out there, we're very proud and very privileged to have a wonderful guest with us today. Gaz, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and tell everybody a little bit about you?
Yeah, so number one, thanks for having me on the show. Firstly, and what a small world to be. Not only, I think right now in the Philippines, we're about 20 minutes from each other, which is also crazy. And to have someone just from North Wales, I think I know one other person from North Wales here, Shane Cosgrove.
Yeah, I know Shane.
He's from Llandudno as well, isn't he? So,
yeah, he's from Llandudno. He actually did a podcast with us when he was talking about the football. He started the Nomads Ladies Football, right? Yeah, I know Shane.
He's been on the show as well. Okay, that's good. Yeah, so maybe a bit about me. So dad from the UK, mum's from Pampanga. They met out here in the Philippines, and I spent probably the early part of my life in the Philippines and Malaysia and Singapore for a bit before I went back to the UK. Dad was adamant I went to the same school he went to, so I went to Rydal. I don't know if you know it, in Cold Bay. Yeah, so
really, you went to Rydal?
Yeah, mortal enemies, right? So
no, my cousins went to Rydal.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
When?
How old's Mark? This is going back. What year were you? So how old are you now?
33.
Yeah, you would have been there. You'd been there after us. So Mark's probably about 42, 43. You don't know Mark Catherall. You don't know that guy's name, do you?
Nah, probably a bit before me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So carrying on, I moved back to the UK, and I remember I went to a local school in a small town called Prestatyn, and it was just football crazy, right? Nothing to do with rugby, and coming from Asia, everything was basketball as long as I can remember. So I had to pick up football at an early age. I remember I was playing goalkeeper, and that was from the age, say year 5 to year 6, so just before high school. And then at high school, Dad made me go to the same school he went to, which is Rydal. And as you know, Rydal is a very rugby-orientated school, so it was rugby in the winter and cricket in the summer. We had zero football. So I hated it at first because I was, this is crazy. There's no footy here. I don't really know rugby, but I started picking up rugby in school, and I started enjoying it. And then that's when I really started actually playing rugby at the age of about 11 or 12. A lot of other people pick it up much younger, early ages. But I only actually picked it up in high school.
Nice. So I went to John Bright's. So you're right, Rydal. So Rydal and John Bright's are mortal enemies, right? So,
yeah, exactly.
There you go. Cool. So you touched on it briefly in terms of how you got into rugby. Could you just maybe expand on that a little bit more? So what were the major differences, from the Philippines when you went to the UK, and you said that you started as a goalkeeper in football, and then you got introduced to rugby. And where was the pivotal point? Where did you go? That's it. It's rugby for me. Obviously, it wasn't Saturday after we lost to France, but where was the turning point?
No, I think it was just the social circles I was in high school. So, to make friends, you have to play sport. That was probably the easiest route for me. And then it felt like rugby was a lot easier than football just on the skill set. All you got to do really is pick up a ball and run straight. Everyone tells you, run backwards, pass backwards, run forwards, and just tackle, right? So I was like, that can't be too hard. Just from then, I just think the friends I was around and the people I was around and trying to make friends, I just kind of fell in love with it after that.
Nice.
So, not looking back.
What position do you play, mate? Because you've got to be in the backs, right? You're not fat enough to be a forward.
Yeah, so I actually started in high school playing back row. I had no idea. I had no idea what was going on. I remember hands on the ground, people trotting on my hands in a scrum. Right? I was like, nah, this isn't for me. And they moved me into the back. So I started off playing 10 actually. I spent all high school playing 10, so I was fly half. And later moved to the centers.
Nice. So my last question before I tag Mike in, what was the decision-making process that you went through to turn pro for rugby, right? Because when I was growing up, this just proves how old I am. Rugby wasn't a professional sport; it was all amateur, right? So what was the decision-making process? You went, right, I'm gonna be a full-time pro in rugby. Talk us through that, mate?
So I finished high school, and the school I went to was a very rugby orientated school. So I went to then UWIC University. So UWIC is also a massive rugby playing university. So they have about 5 or 6 different teams. And I remember turning up to the freshers week. So what freshers is, if a lot of you that don't know, it's the freshers team is anyone can try out for the team, right? It's just like basically the junior university team. I remember turning up, there's about 150 players trying out for one team. It was crazy, and everything was based on like a 2-day trial. So I actually remember, I was like, oh, this is crazy. A lot of good players here. I think it was like 10 people in my position. So actually, I didn't make the cut for the first, I think, 4 months. So I remember I didn't make the initial round, and what they had is every week you could come back and try out again, and then the pooling of players got smaller and smaller. And luckily, an injury happened within the freshers team. I picked up a spot, and I just managed to really cement my place in the team after that. Rugby is all about opportunity. You get an opportunity and you just take it, right? Because and post university, there was an opportunity again to play in Italy. So there was a sevens competition in Italy, and that's where I was invited to play. I played out in that tournament, and again, luckily enough, got picked up by a club in Italy. They offered me a contract. So,
nice.
I just finished university. I was about to really get into the career I was trying to get into, and this is something I couldn't pass up. And I remember speaking to my dad about it. And he said, look, you're gonna look back and just regret if you just don't go for it, right? You never know what's gonna happen. So, that was really the opening into like professional sports for me. It's like just very very lucky, very very lucky to have the opportunity to play rugby and got picked up.
Nice one. Thanks, guys. Mike, I know you've got a couple of questions, mate. I'll tag you in as the fact you're wearing the Welsh shirt as well, mate. So thank you very much for that.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Good to see you, mate.
Yeah. So you played in Italy for how long? And then after that, you went to any other leagues, or?
Yeah. So I spent about 18 months in Italy. I remember the first day I got to Italy. I came in late, and we're in the middle of in pre-season, so we're in camp. And I was actually rooming with an Argentinian back row. Didn't speak a word of English. So I remember waking up in the morning, and I was like, "Oh, hey, man, like what's happening today? Where are you going?" And he's, "Don't speak English." And then that's how we had to communicate at first. It was just hand signals. So when we had to eat, he would point and just do this. His name was Pablo. So he's still a good friend of mine now. But it was a great experience in Italy. And
so can you speak English now, or can you speak Spanish now, or do you still communicate like that?
Yeah, I know the Spanish swear words. That's about it, right? So, because that's what he used to say to me. I probably used to piss him off a lot, but I got quite fluent in Italian, but I forgot a lot of it now. It's so long ago. It was like 11 years ago. Yeah, and then it was in a place called Rovigo. So we're quite lucky in Italy. It's the only town in Italy where rugby is bigger than football. So it had a bigger following in that little kind of area of Italy, which is a first because everything is football crazy there. So
was it a good club? Was it like top tier?
Yeah, it's in the Division 1 of Italy. It's fairly good club. We weren't top of the league. We were probably mid-table. So we had 3 other expat players there. So there's a Fijian who played for the Western Force and played for the Fiji World Cup. And then we had another Argentinian back row, and had some guys play junior Italian reps, but nothing too serious after that.
Mm-hmm.
And then I finished the contract there, and I got asked to go for a trial in Japan. So I went to a trial in I got picked up to play there, so I played about 2 seasons in Japan. I don't know if you remember, Paul. Do you remember Chris Latham, Chris Jack?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, so I remember turning up, and then they were on my team, right? So you got these players look like growing up as a kid, and like these are your idols. Like you see them on TV, and
Yeah.
they're huge, and then you just meet them, and I was just like almost starstruck. I couldn't really speak. I was like trying to play it cool. Nice to meet you, nice to meet you. And I remember I had to go and I had to do all sorts of fitness tests, and I had to do the dreaded beep and yo-yo test. And mind you, I just took a flight from Italy, so I was knackered. And they were all watching me, just for this testing because I was out for a trial, and I remember I could hear him. Oh, he's in mid-season. He's probably going to get around 18 or 19 on the yo-yo. I think I pulled out around 13, 14, which is really, really low, right? It's actually almost embarrassing. But I was just so drained, and I just remember they were just like, "Oh, you can't be that good," right? So, yeah, lucky they gave me a shot there. So.
Okay, what was the difference between Italy and Japan for rugby in terms of fans and?
Yeah, so again, it's massive culture shock. You wouldn't think rugby, in the early, I'd say when did I go? 2010 was big in Japan, like because you obviously a lot more coverage now. I think when Japan beat South Africa in the World Cup, they got huge media presence, right? So, like I had no idea what to expect from Japan. I just know a lot of the big names go over there to retire post-career or just have a little sabbatical away from Southern Hemisphere and Northern Hemisphere rugby. All I can put, like the best example to describe it, rugby in Italy is like domani. It means it's like tomorrow. Everything is so relaxed, right? Nothing too much by the book. Everything in Japan is rigid, strict, within a box, right? You can't, like, it's just, everyone follows the rules there. But the style of play, in terms of actual rugby, Italy was a bit more confrontational. So it's a bit more your old school type of rugby where it's, very much Northern Hemisphere dominated, where it's wet type of playing conditions. You truck it up. It's a lot more contact driven. Whereas Japan was much more flair rugby. It was wide passing the game. It's running. It's attacking style, right? But not so confrontational. That was the main. If you're fit, Japan's pretty fun. If you're fit, but yeah, it's just so fast, the game there. That's a massive difference.
So then after that, is that when?
Sorry, go on, Mike. You go. You go first, Mike.
Did you play in the national team here after that?
Yeah, so I actually started playing the national team before university. I remember I finished high school and I was like thinking, I wonder if the Philippines has a rugby team. So I just Googled it. I found the PRFU, and then they said, yeah, you know what, you can pay for your own airfares, come out here for a trial, and then if you make the team, you make the team, we'll cover your expenses going to different tournaments. So that was way back in 2006, and I remember I landed here and having a North Walian accent a bit more back then. They're like, what's your name? So I said, oh, my name's Gaz. And they're like, Gus? I was like, no, it's Gaz. Anyway, they couldn't understand me. I got called Gus for the first, I think, week of camp. And then only when I made the team, they read my name out. Everyone's like, oh, right, your name's not Gus. I'll try to tell you. But, yeah, but it was, it's again, Philippine rugby is completely different. If you look at all the players, they train like professionals, but they don't get paid, right? So a lot of the players here are from Australia, New Zealand, England, but everyone actually pays for their own airfare to come out here. That's how it all started. So it's really just for the love of the game and kind of this camaraderie and brotherhood. So that's what really got us started before it kind of got funding behind it and sponsors. Yeah, so that's how I started back in 2006 with Volcanoes.
Guys, I've got a question, Mike, if that's all right. So, Mike.
Yeah, go ahead.
So guys, when Japan beat South Africa in the World Cup, it was a huge upset globally, right?
Yeah.
With you being exposed to the Japanese rugby, was there a sense even before the World Cup that there was an upset on the cards, or was it just as a shock for the Japanese as it was for the rest of the world?
No, I always think Japan was like a sleeping giant, right? It's always brewing, and no one knows what to expect of Japan because, pre I'd say pre-2012, they were getting flogged, right? Wales was smashing, and everyone was really beating them. And then, again, me going out there, just looking at the standard of rugby they were playing, and bringing a lot of these recruits in, these foreigners, and just to increase the level of the game. I knew these floggings weren't going to happen much longer, and I think Eddie Jones taking over the national team was really good, and having the right caliber of players. It wasn't a massive. Is a sense I could see it coming. I think a lot of people could, but on the global stage, I think it just really put Japan back on the map right there. I think the top 10 team now. Even on the seventh circuit, they dominate. I think in the the Olympics, right? They finished like fifth or something.
Yeah, but like I said, they're a sleeping giant, and you wouldn't know it, but I had a game with the Extincts at the start, well, just before lockdown, and I would go to a couple of training sessions, right? But you're right, Filipinos, they just bang, 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 flat, always running straight, right? And just so fast. It's wonderful to watch. Before I go back to Mike, I do have another question. So you've had experience of playing in Italy. What's your thoughts on Italy in the Six Nations? Because they've not won a game now in 6 years? The last win was, I think, away to Scotland. So the reason I asked that is that England have finished fifth in the Six Nations, right? And a lot of people are actually saying, well, England finished bottom of the Six Nations. Now, I don't want to say that because I'm not controversial like Ollie. But what do you think? Do you think Italy have a place in the Six Nations, or has that kind of race been run now?
I don't know. I hear a lot of people saying the real wood and spoon's fifth place, right, in the Six Nations, which is which is a bit harsh. But I don't know. I do believe there should be some sort of relegation system in the Six Nations. I think like the likes of Georgia and other countries are really starting to push up. If you look at the Asian circuit, they have what's called I think it's now ARC. The top teams in Asia play, and if you're relegated, you drop down. You're promoted to go up, right? So without being controversial, I think there needs to be something done because it's been going on for a long time now. I think it's about time they either increase the pool of the Six Nations or they start bringing in a relegation promotion system. Because it's like every year, like you're finishing sixth place. It can't be good one for Italy, right? You're just on morale.
Yeah, it can't be. And I think you've just got to look at the progress Argentina made when they joined the Tri-Nations, right? They went up. They went up another level, right? And it's unfortunately that Italy haven't been able to kick on. So
definitely.
Right. Okay, I think Mike's done with your questions, Mike. Right? I think Jet's next. Jet, you got any questions?
Yeah, guys. What are you currently doing for in terms of rugby? And my follow-up question there, and do you have any big plans like here in the Philippines?
Yeah, so I'm in rugby now. Well, the last couple of years, I retired, I think 4 years ago, but I'm always, funnily enough, called back to play. There's always injuries. So I think in 2017, I got called back. I played 2018, I got called back again. But rugby on the scene now is just unfortunately completely stopped, right? Because of the pandemic, and especially being a contact sport, it's going to be difficult to get anything going of that sort. I think in terms of the sporting category, it's really the last one that will be allowed to play. Which is quite sad because if you've just seen where we have come from, it's made so much traction and progress, like going from the 2005, 2006 period to now, it's almost like a professional setup. It's such a shame. So I don't in terms of rugby right now, I don't think anything will happen for the next year maybe here. But in terms of what I'm doing now, so I've managed to transition into construction. So I manage a construction company here in Mandaluyong, actually, called SCW. So we do a lot of design and build it up. A lot of these contacts as well, Paul. So a lot of BPOs.
Okay, cool.
Back offices, co-working spaces.
Mate, we're gonna have to have that beer. We're gonna have to have that beer soon. I'm sure we've got tons of mutual friends. Sorry, carry on, Jet. Sorry, mate.
No, it's alright. Good. I'm good.
You're good. Gaz, I was going to ask you a question. Oh, what was I going to ask you a question about? It was going back to rugby. Oh, that was it. Were you playing, or when Marcus Smith broke on the scene here? And did you always know that he was going to go on and be the star that he is right now?
No, you know what? I never even heard of him while I was playing.
Wow.
Yeah. So I know he was a Nomads, and I think he was up and coming in through the English school system, but I never really got wind of him. And then I think his brother joined the Sevens program 2018, 2019, and then everyone saying, "Oh, that's Marcus Smith's brother," and then you started hearing about him more, and then just by watching Queens play now, right?
Yeah.
He's only what 22 years old, so
Yeah, 22, 23, right?
so it's pretty remarkable actually, like that young. I just know by playing 10 the pressure you get, and he's not the biggest of players as well. So you think people be targeting him a lot, especially down the 8 channel or 12, but he seems to hold himself right well. So.
Yeah, no, so for you guys that don't play rugby, so Mike, Jet, and Ollie, number 10 is the glory position, right? I was never a number 10. I was second row. Guys, I've not grown since I was about 4, so I was automatically I was automatically second row at school, right? And then when I played for Llandudno, I moved a little bit to the back, so I went to like inside centre and outside centre.
Right.
Predominantly second row, but yeah.
You're in the boiler house.
Exactly right. Number 10 is the glory position. Cool.
10 is like the quarterback of NFL, right? That's like it's a similar type of position. You try to dictate the play, and
Exactly.
it's very strategic. Yeah, strategic type of position.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. Absolutely. Ollie's been very quiet. That worries me. So Ollie is the controversial one of the group, Gaz. So, Ollie, have you got any questions you want to throw to Gaz?
Yeah, sorry guys, I was a bit late, and yeah, hi Gaz, how's things?
Hi Ollie.
In terms of rugby in the Philippines, right, in the next, let's say 10 years, how far can you see it going in terms of I mean, obviously competing on international level, but can it get to that kind of, well, I mean, dare say it, can it get into the World Cup in the next 10, 20 years?
So we actually went to the World Cup in 2013. So we won a qualifier in Singapore, and the top 3 teams in Asia go through. So we actually played in the World Cup, and I remember our group games was against Kenya, Samoa, and Zimbabwe. So it's like we left here and we were like big chest sticking out. We're going to the World Cup, and I remember walking into the hotel. And then, like, okay, there's a Samoan team, and they were like giant. They were 110 kilos and 6'6". I was like, oh shit, they're big. And then you look across, and there's a Kenyan team even bigger, right? So I'm like, oh, dude. But yeah, I think the main problem with Philippine rugby is trying to make it sustainable. So it's a real long process, because what kind of holds it together is a lot of the foreign players coming in, because they play in obviously their respective countries, right, where it's First Nation type of rugby, first grade type of rugby. So if you're looking at 10, 20 years, you've got to really plant a seed in the grassroots of the game. So getting into the school systems, getting into the local school systems. It's not as easy as basketball, where you can just pick up a ball and just shoot, right? You can play basketball pretty much anywhere, but rugby has to be a lot more moderated than basketball. So yeah, it's a real tough one, because I just mimic the Hong Kong setup. So Hong Kong bring a lot of foreign players in, and then they nationalize them, and then they have this full-on professional setup where they earn money while they play. But I think for Philippine rugby to do that would be much more difficult, because they can't sustain it just with sponsorship and funding here. So you're really looking at getting at the grassroots, and it's a much more long-term play if we're going to do anything like that. But we definitely have the talent, especially overseas. I think, Paul, if you look at, I think you would understand it's like a Fiji or Samoa, whereas they have a lot of players come back and represent the country and then go back out again. So that's the kind of situation we're in. Also to say the girls rugby as well, but the girls rugby are doing very well.
Absolutely. 100%. My nephew trains with Game On Sport, So they they do virtual training, and he's been doing rugby training now for about the last 6 months. He's 7. He loves it. He absolutely loves it. So yeah, he's been trained by Kat Andrews.
Yeah, Kat. Yeah,
you know Kat, right? Yeah. Small world, this man. Small world.
Yeah, it is. That's the thing. Rugby here, the mentality of like the parents, right? It's a contact sport. They don't want their kids to get head injuries and whatsoever. So yeah, it's a culture thing as well.
Talking of small world, guys, I was playing golf at Santa Elena, and my caddy was like, "Oh yeah, you sound like Gareth," and I'm like, "Who is he?" Like, so I was playing golf with Jim Garwood.
Jim Garwood, yeah.
Yeah, and then apparently my caddy was your caddy, so she was like, "Oh yeah, you must know him," and I'm like. But it was the first time I played there, so I was like, I don't really know what's going on. So yeah, it was just small world because I heard your name and I was like, I've never met the guy, but I've heard of him. And Jim was like, yeah, I know Gareth.
Oh wow, that is a small world. This is a really small world. How do you know Jimbo?
Just met him via the BPO world and recruitment, and I think we share the same passion for golf, and yeah, basically that's it really. And beers, yeah.
Yeah, Jimbo also played for the Volcanoes, believe it or not, in 2008. Yeah, so he was a prop.
Yeah, he was saying giving me some funny stories.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of funny stories.
But that you can't share, Ollie, because it's not past the watershed. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Unfortunately, not now.
Yeah. For a beer, another time.
After a beer, right? So, guys, listen, from us Welsh guys, what before the Six Nations started, what did you expect? And then, how upset were you after the result on Saturday?
Honestly, prior to Six Nations, I didn't be doing that well. I honestly thought England would have a really good run in. They've had the same team for 5+ years. I know that now the team is a bit stale, right? But with Eddie Jones, I felt that they could really do something. And then just prior to this weekend, I was like, holy crap, we've got a really, really good shot, right? So all we've got to do is beat the French. And then pre-80th minute, I'm like, all right, we've got this, boys. But I don't think it's too bad. I was reading something about it. The French have got to win by 21 clear points and a bonus point, right? Playing against Scotland, who are really in form now. So, touch wood, I say this now, Paul, we're going to have the same conversation a couple of weeks later.
Next week, right?
It's going to be different.
Yeah. So here's my stance. I agree with you. I think France going to Scotland and winning because they've got to win by 21 clear points, right?
Clear points, right?
Yeah, it's not just scoring 21 points. They've got to win by 21 points, clear points. I actually think for the new guys coming into the Welsh team, the likes of Rhys Emmett, right? Yeah. It's a cracking learning experience to be so close and to have it taken away in the last second. They're only going to learn from it, right? They're only going to go, right, we're not going to allow that to happen again. I'll always remember Lee Halfpenny. He missed a kick for Wales against France in the World Cup. Do you remember when we lost by a single point, right?
Warburton got sent off.
That's it. Warburton got sent off, right? So after that, I saw the following year we won the Six Nations Grand Slam, and Lee Halfpenny was the player of the tournament. And he was asked during an interview after, he says, well, what spurred you on? And he said, I had the chance for us to beat France in the semi-final. I missed it, and I made a promise to myself that would never happen again. Now, as long as everybody in the Welsh team has made that same commitment, we're only going to improve from Saturday's result, in my opinion. But
no, 100%.
What do I know, right?
No, that's true. Any defeat, right, makes you stronger, right? You always look back on it and you think, what happened, and I don't want to feel like that again, etc. Especially something within the 80th minute just be taken away.
Exactly.
Yeah, I've had a fair few shares of those experiences. Not nice, right? But you just got to move on.
Absolutely, and it's a shame, right? Because up until Saturday, our discipline has been pretty decent, and then we just got a little bit ragged towards the end, right? So there we go. Guys, it's been a pleasure, mate. I just wish I knew you before today. We could have had a beer, but now I'll know you will be able to go out and have a few scoops, hopefully. I guess for our audience out there, if they want to reach out to you or they want to follow you, follow your construction or follow your rugby insights, what's the best way to do it? Is it Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter? Are you social media active or not so much these days?
Yeah, a lot of my social media, I think it's on private, but I'm actually not that active on Twitter. Yeah, maybe through Facebook or Instagram. Just shoot me a message, right? Or LinkedIn as well. I'm not active there, so just shoot me a message. Yeah, no problem. Happy to answer any questions if any.
Cheers, guys. Thanks, Jack. Guys, Mike, Jet, Ollie, any questions before we let
guys
go?
Good.
Good. Ollie?
No, I'm well. I mean, I'm gutted about last weekend's result because I was waiting for my big win, mate. But I think I agree with you, lads. That I think for France to get 21 points in Scotland, yes, it's a tough order. And also, actually, Paul, the reason why I backed Wales at 16-1, right, is because I saw them in Japan in the semi-finals, and literally, guys, I think it was 2 kicks between Wales going to the final against South Africa, and I kind of knew, like, this is a solid team, and it's only going to improve.
Maybe you didn't see us during the autumn internationals when we were awful. We sneaked past. Right, guys, we sneak. Exactly. We sneaked past Georgia. We got smashed by Ireland and England. I'm very thankful that Ollie, you were living in the past, but yeah.
But that's not serious, mate. You only bring your A game to the serious stuff, right?
That's it. That's a good excuse, actually. Yeah. We'll start trying in Six Nations, right?
To be fair, guys, Ollie and I had a chat, a betting chat before the Six Nations, right? And I said to Ollie, very similar to you, I would be surprised if we get any points on the board before we get to round 4, which was Italy, right? And Ollie was like, no, you're fine, you're going to win it. I was like, mate, you're talking crap. But...
Yeah, exactly the same. I thought, nah, we're not going to do too well. And it actually shows how much I know, right? So.
Yeah, exactly. I just maybe it's just the Welsh disposition that we're always like looking on the dark side, right? I know. Guys, it's been a pleasure, mate. Thank you so much for freeing up your time today. It's wonderful for you to come along and share your insights, and I hope that we can do this again sometime, but over a beer with everybody. Take care, mate, and everybody out there.
Yeah. Thanks a lot, guys, and let me know when you're next playing golf. You all sound like you're golfers, so let's see you again.
Perfect.
Yeah, let's. I'll message Jim and get him involved.
Yeah, definitely.
And Ollie, include me, then we can do Wales versus the rest.
Yeah, Wales versus the world. We'll take it on. Yeah.
All right, guys.
Good stuff.
All right, thanks
guys,
again.
Take
guys.
care, everyone. All the best.
Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye.